Welcome back to another episode of the Proptech Labs Podcast. You are here with Raph and Kanal again. And just like every other episode, we're going to learn new things. It's different from my everyday life because I'm usually just discussing movies or video games or if Domino's is better than Pizza Hut. So, Raph, this is a very good change. So thanks for, joining us again.
Mate, I every time I say thanks for having me back because I'm not sure how I keep getting invited back to this thing. So it's good to be here, Kanal. Thanks for having me again, mate.
My pleasure. Well, the next guest has quite the impressive resume. I'm looking at LinkedIn right now, and this list of experiences just goes on and on and on. She is doing amazing things, incredible things. She is Natasha MacDonald. How are you doing, Natasha?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
So, our famous question.
Yes.
Back in high school, What did you want to be? What did you want to do with your life?
Wow, really starting with the easy questions. I wish I knew the answer to that even now. I think the one thing I thought I would never do was work in the family business, which is ultimately where I've ended up. So, as life would have it, in the completely opposite direction to probably where I thought I would be back in high school.
Really? So you didn't have any desire to be anything else?
I think I just wanted to break out and do something a bit different. And I've always been surrounded by real estate, and there was a lot of real estate chat in the family growing up. And it's always been part of who we were as a family. Yeah. My dad worked 7 days a week growing up, but still made it to all the, pinnacle events in his suit and tie on Saturdays for the swimming carnival and the rowing carnivals. And yeah, I just think it was always part of who we were, but I never thought I would actually work in the family business, and probably would have laughed if you told me that I would end up there in my latter years.
So they're not listening to this, but was there a bit of pressure at least? Like a little bit of pressure?
No, absolutely
really?
None.
Okay.
Absolutely none. No, it was no pressure. It was just something that was, in the family, but never, there was never a thought that I would work in the family business. I did work here in my uni days, I have to say, on reception. And probably that was enough of a taster for a little while to really break out and get away from the family business. But no, it's been nice to circle back here after doing some different things earlier on in my career.
Yeah. So Harris Tripp, that's been in the family since inception, or can you give us a bit of story about what Harris Tripp is and how it was founded and, obviously where you are today?
Yeah, I think my dad was working in stockbroking early in his career alongside my mum. She worked in stockbroking as well, and they were interested in buying their first property. And Dad had met Frank Harris and Robert Tripp, knew of them and sort of asked for some advice, and that he was going to purchase a property for them to live in. And they said, actually, a better strategy is to look at buying an investment property and looking at the return on that investment and then leveraging that property to buy another property. And I think from that moment, he sort of got hooked on the idea of property as an investment strategy, having worked in stockbroking. Awesome. And so, yeah, from there, an interest was piqued, and here we all are.
There you go.
Incredible. Yeah. So, okay, did you finish high school though? Did you finish year 12?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
yes.
So what was the magic grade that you got?
Does it not sound like I finished year 12?
I don't know. Like if you were in the family business, you could have just dropped out and got a job with your dad.
No, I finished year 12 and I successfully finished my university degree as well. So we're all covered. I'm good.
Okay, because I'm not proud of my grade at all.
Okay.
So what was yours? Are you allowed to reveal it? Are you comfortable revealing the year 12 mark?
Oh, sure. I'm 95.5 in my HSC. So
wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
No skeletons in my school closet.
I'd like to say the same, but I'd be lying somewhat, I'd suggest.
Okay, so you got that incredible HSC mark. What was the first thing you did out of school?
I went to university.
Yep.
Straight after school. I was a bit of a nerd at school, and I thought that was sort of the logical next step. And I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do at that point. So I did business at UTS.
Yep.
A very foundational course, and it was great. And after that, I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I went traveling for a year around Europe. Okay. And then, sort of got to see the world, and then I was ready to buckle down, and I went into the world of advertising and events and sponsorship.
Yeah.
worked for agencies, worked for Coca-Cola, moved to London, worked for more agencies, worked with big clients. And I think probably from that, some of the skills that I really leverage now is sort of the entrepreneurial spirit of the agencies that I worked for. I think that's probably been the biggest part of my journey that's helped me in my real estate, journey so far.
Yeah.
When you came into Harris Tripp after uni and after you've had the break, and you said, "Yep, look, this is what I want to give it a red hot shot." Where did you start?
That is not how it happened.
No, okay, good. Well, please enlighten me. That would be lovely.
I was at home with babies, and I had moved back from London after 10 years of working, and I was bored. And I said to my brother and my dad, what's going on at the office? I need some jobs to do. And they said, look, we're about to renovate. And I said, you're not about to renovate. I will renovate for you. Nice. And I think that was my first job in the real estate industry, was renovating their office. And I came in here, and then I was like, what's going on in here? Where's the process? Where's the order? What's happening with this business? So I think I just sort of accidentally fell into real estate, shall I say?
Yeah. And how long ago was that? How long have you been in Harris Tripp now for? On a
accidentally here for 10 years.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I've been accidentally in Proptech Labs for 8 years, so it's the same accident.
Similar, yes.
same
yeah,
story.
just accidentally.
Cool.
So
sorry, ahead. No, you go, mate.
No, just like from these early jobs you had, like Kinergy, you went to the Coca-Cola company. Is there anything that you've learned from those jobs that you've applied at this agency? Yeah,
absolutely. I think in advertising world, it's all about the problem and the brief, and then identifying what the problem is and providing a solution. And I think that way of thinking, taking a step back and identifying what the problem is, to anything, has been really useful in real estate. And I think I look at the real estate landscape in a slightly different lens to sort of traditional real estate agents or people that have worked in real estate for a very long time. Yeah. So I hope that brings something a little bit different to my approach. I think also just the level of communication has been, I've worked in an industry where communication is key, and I try and impart that onto people, picking up phones, creating connections, creating relationships. But communication in all forms, I think, is really super important.
Yeah, definitely. I just had a look at your website. It is on point. The branding, the blacks, the whites, very sleek. I love it.
Great. That's very good. Glad to hear it.
So Tash, when you started, what were some of the challenges you had early on when you came in to the real estate industry or into the office? Is there anything that stood out, or a few things that stood out to you when you first started? You thought, geez, wow, this is bizarre, or fun?
How long have you got?
We've got as long as you need. This is a free-flowing forum of chat.
I think the evolution that I've seen in the last 10 years in real estate has been huge in terms of how fast and the pace of change, the pace of technology, and just the pace of expectation in terms of what owners expect. But 10 years ago when I walked in, I think I came into sort of quite a traditional old school agency at that point. It was very much a family office. It was very much an office where there were people that had, the average tenure of staff back then was probably 12 years. And that's something has changed a lot, which I'm sure you experience as well, in terms of the turnover of staff now. It's just a generational thing, but back then it was still there were staff that had been in the business for a very long time. There wasn't the rigor of process that there is now, and I think it was just you did things, but it wasn't there wasn't as much thinking around why we did things. And I think I could just see from the outset, given my background, how much room there was to improve. And I sort of came in thinking, I can do this overnight. And I can sort of say after 10 years, I finally just got to a place where I hoped to have been at 8 years ago. So it's taken much longer than I thought it would, but I'm proud of where we are now, definitely.
That's awesome. And I suppose, you first started 10 years ago, and as you sort of touched on, things have changed significantly in those 10 years. I mean, what sort of things have you seen change, and perhaps some examples of how it's changed your business for the better or for the worse potentially?
I think so many things have changed in the last 10 years. I think the pace of technology, I think there's a tech company calling me every 2 days saying I must have this piece of software in my business, otherwise I will fail. I think the integration of tech has been huge. And I think with that comes like a huge change management piece, because the people that used to work or 10 years ago worked in our business weren't necessarily the people that wanted to be on board with all of this sort of change in real estate. I think another huge change is the expectation of what employees expect from a business. It's no longer just a place to come to work. They want a culture, and they want social, and they want, a career development plan. Not to say those things didn't exist, but I think the level at which they exist now has hugely increased. And then I just think the rigor around process, which sort of dives into the expectation of what clients expect from a real estate agent these days. We live in an Amazon age. People want things at the click of a button, despite real estate being about human connection and, involvement. It's not all tech-based. It can't be all tech-based, thankfully. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a business. Raf would be, taking over my business. But
got an invitation?
Yeah, well, come on in. I'm losing my earpods. I just think with that expectation, we've had to get better and better every year. There's just so much expectation. There's so much competition. They're probably the biggest changes.
Yeah, that's. I mean, from your side, I mean, you touch on competition, obviously. I mean, there's so much competition in property management, in real estate these days. There's more and more businesses opening up. How do you sort of differentiate Harris Tripp from others in the industry? Aside from obviously your fantastic website, as Kunal alluded to, is there a way you sort of do it?
I think the biggest differentiator are your people, your staff, because at the end of the day, tech has sort of brought everyone up to a similar level. And so in order to really differentiate, it has to be based on relationships, because that's something that can't be, generated through AI or tech platforms. It has to be about that personal connection. And so that's always going to be the differentiator. It's how you make people feel. And the way they remember you making them feel, like that will ultimately be the key differentiator. And I think, yes, there are so many competitors, but at the end of the day, I can't control what happens outside of our office. And so we can only control how we, what we do and how we respond to things in here. And so the focus should very much be on, what we can do better, not what everyone else is doing outside of the office.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point, and I think that's something that's a bit of a breath of fresh air, because there's always people with different perspectives, but I think that works really well. You sort of touched on AI, and I was going to try and pull a bit of a thread there, because obviously there's a lot of emerging technologies, and you said, you're getting a call every 2 minutes from someone saying, I've got the latest and greatest. Is there anything that sort of caught your attention, or that you've put into your business that you think, geez, I'm so glad I've got this, as opposed to 10 years ago when I didn't have it?
Oh, look, I think there's we couldn't exist without the tech that we now have in place. And certainly it's come a long way. Do I wish that there were, faster evolutions?
That's a wink. That's a wink for everybody on the podcast.
Look, I think so much is happening so quickly, and it is constantly evolving. I think it's fantastic what's in place now, and certainly we obviously use a lot of the products that you're involved with, which we love. I think the harder part is there's still a connectivity issue between all of the software that isn't allowing us to fully take advantage of the tech platforms that are in play. There's still a lot of mental load, especially on property managers. I think probably sales have benefited more from tech in terms of the efficiency that it's allowed them in their flow. I think property managers are probably still struggling a little bit with the mental load that hasn't been removed, because all of the tech can't talk to one another as efficiently as we all hope it can. So I think we're still on a journey with that. And I know that it will get better, but I certainly think that, there's a little bit of work still to do from in that property management space. I do think AI is super interesting, and, I'm encouraging everyone and hopefully, I mean, it's amazing how far that's come, in the last, it feels like 8 months. Like the start of this year really feels like an amazing start to the journey. That also levels the playing fields a lot. So, if you used to be quite good at crafting emails and communicating, that, that talent is wasted now, because it can all be done for you. I think probably learning how to, like anything, I think people still need to work on how they learn and prompt AI in order to get the most out of it. And I think that will come with time. Yeah. But it's obviously incredible what that brings to a team. If you haven't been a confident communicator, if you've struggled to write emails or know how to respond to an owner at a level, sometimes I know my property managers, like, I'm dealing with an owner and they're a lawyer or they're a doctor and they're really smart and my emails don't sound smart enough. Well, here's the answer. And you still obviously have to know what you're saying, but it's just allowing them to feel like they're elevating their communication to their audience or tailoring it to their audience, which is amazing.
Yeah, nice.
You talked about like your competitive advantage being the relationships you have with your clients. It's stepping aside away from tech. You're able to converse with them, have those proper relationships. But we're getting to a point where AI is, kind of having those same advances as well, where they can hold a conversation with people. Is that something?
Not in real life that the AI can't.
Yeah. I guess like if I face to face, I can't.
Yeah.
But like,
so I'm talking about personal connection.
Okay.
I'm talking about face to face. I'm talking about phone calls. I'm talking about something that a conversation that will make an owner feel a certain way or get an insight into who you are as an agent in order for you to connect with them and hopefully list with them. I think the reason we use a lot of video content on our website is to give, and through our socials, we don't focus on what we're selling. It's about who we are as an agency, because we want people to get an understanding of, like, behind the scenes, what our values are and what we stand for and who we are and how we operate, in order for them to feel like they can know us a little bit better.
Yeah, and trust you. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, my sort of thinking is, obviously we've got this great technology, and you're quite right. The AI buzz is really here. ChatGPT set tongues wagging, and now it's an arms race, and AI is everywhere and everything, and all anyone talks about. What does that look like then for you in your mind for the future of property management from a tech perspective, obviously, because it's bloody exciting stuff, the AI.
I think it's super exciting. I think it's super exciting from a tech point of view. The worry for me is that it erodes any kind of competitive advantage that you have through how you currently do things, because it's reliant on, good staff and good people, and it will close the gap on that, which is good in some ways. But I think there's other ways where owners won't see value in what we provide, because it levels the playing field so much. So for me, that's an area of concern. I still think there'll always be a place for people with great knowledge and understanding of property management. And that's why I think relationships will still be hugely important. And we're trying to put more focus on, picking up the phone and personal relationship. I do worry that the generations coming through are very adversely, against picking up a phone, or, they're all about snap and text and social and, message and, maybe a voice note if you're lucky, but it's not a phone call. And, we grew up when you had to dial the family phone and, I'm showing my age, pick up the phone and have those conversations with people. And I think that there's an element of that missing. And, in our area especially, and, I'm still dealing with a lot of people that expect a level of courtesy or, a phone call over certain matters. And I think it's really hard to sometimes even push my staff and say, pick up the phone, guys. Not everyone wants to send an email. Everything has to be in writing. That's obviously a no-brainer, but you need to pick up the phone. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And also it cuts through all of the other stuff. You have to have that as a reference, but you need to, if you're trying to explain something, pick up the phone. It's much easier.
Yeah, I think communication is very difficult in today's modern world, because, as you quite rightly say, it's hard to gauge whether people want to call or they want an email or they want to see you on TikTok doing a dance in front of your real estate agency.
So true. And you have to ask those questions. How do you prefer to be communicated with? And we do we do survey our owners every quarter to just sort of touch base and put that in notes on the system. But I think when you're dealing with a large amount of properties, or a property manager has a lot of properties that they manage on their portfolio, the tech is still not there to really facilitate, this level of, like, it keeps leveling up the level of expectation. And I think the tech hasn't kept up with the level up of expectation. So it's even more mental load for the property managers, and we're still trying to work through, because at the end of the day, tech's only as good as the person using it. And I think with all of these amazing evolutions that's happening in the tech space, it does increasingly become hard to keep on top of those and how to maximize and optimize the efficiency of those releases when you're doing a full-time job and, you're not a tech whiz and all these things are happening in the background. So, I mean, as we touched on, real estate is evolving so fast, and part of that is through all of this tech and data and AI, and almost you need a specialist in your business to sort of be able to train that in. But then it's another, it's another cost. It's another thing that we need to consider when owners are seeing less value in the services that we're providing because they think that tech's doing it all, when right now that is absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be hard for people that own real estate businesses if they see the value eroding in, what they've created.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I suppose you mentioned it, that there are a lot of people with a lot of different technology and a lot of different solutions. As a business owner, how do you assess which one of these is the burning technology? Because they all have to have, everyone will tell you need this technology. Do you have a process that you do to evaluate these sorts of things, or do you put them in the business and try and see if it's going to work? I mean, do you have a way of assessing things for new technology that comes your way?
Yes, me.
Yeah, right.
I think we've tried to put rigor around it. It's certainly, my space and something that I'm heavily involved in at the start. I think the harder part for that is then I'm not in the business in the traditional sense of being a sales agent or being a property manager. So I can assess and sort of see the benefit of things, but it's the people using it day to day. So we try and be discerning. We've got tech champions in our business. So we've got 2 people that operate as tech champions that will do the sort of webinars and then train it in smaller groups, because we found, telling everyone to watch a webinar about a new release across 10 different products, they're just not going to do that. So we try and have tech champions that can delve a bit deeper, that can train it in with other members of the team. That's worked really, really well. I think with the evolution of different pieces of tech, we then see crossover in what, you're paying for things that now 2 different pieces of software that you're paying for do. So you have to constantly reevaluate, is this valuable in our business? Is it providing, is it making us more efficient? Is it cost effective? What's the ROI? So we definitely do that. And we've released a few things that we haven't seen value in. I think the other thing is in tech, as I'm sure you can appreciate, is people think the value of their product is higher than it actually is. And so they price it. And despite my, very forceful view on their pricing, which they don't often take, too well, they go in with this high level pricing. I think the hardest thing in real estate is that every tech platform is a monthly cost, which again erodes, the profitability and the revenue that you're generating through your services, because there's all these additional costs to sustain this, constant tech stack of products that don't necessarily all talk to one another, but we supposedly all need to be the best real estate agents that we can do and the best property managers that we can do. So it's a really fine line, because I'm not a tech whiz. I don't know. I don't have the answers to all of the tech things. I've gotten much better at discerning and analysing and assessing, but it is a new space, and it is definitely something that is high on the agenda of consideration, because it does add up. It's a lot of money being spent on tech.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a very valid point. Thank you. That was really cool. Thanks for that insight. Kanal, you look like you're burning with a question over there. I keep stealing the microphone today because I've got some cool ideas and questions. So.
No, I was just wondering, like in the areas of property management and sales, which platform was the most valuable in terms of where you saved time? Like, was it the inspection side? Was it the invoicing side? In which area did you save the most time? Which area?
I think probably from, and I'm going to be very honest and transparent. But it probably real-time agent on the sales side is one of a piece of technology that is used consistently by the agent, and they see value in that. It's digital signing. Everyone can see where they're up to at any point in terms of a listing being sent live, and where the contract's at, and everything, all the stages of the life cycle of the sales process. So I think for them that's been super important. Obviously your CRM is, at the baseline of every real estate agent as being valuable, but in terms of a new piece of tech that really allows us to be more efficient, and we've seen us being more efficient, and the whole team being across where everything's at and knowing all of the detail, probably real-time agent. And then from the PM side of things, I always gauge technology by the propensity of the PMs to use it, and even more so by their willingness to say they love it. And very few staff members will say from the get-go that they love a software. But the time that has happened in my business was flickered over. So I think that we used to do lease signing in the office.
Yep.
It would take up a huge amount of time. At the time that we introduced it, we were doing 1,000 lease signings a year. Was just post in that COVID period, and we used DocuSign to start with. And I feel like they didn't probably innovate as quickly, and they're obviously not a bespoke real estate product. But Flick It Over has just really allowed us to create huge efficiency around that leasing process. You know, it's got other templates that we can use. And yeah, that's been something that they all love and use very happily and very easily.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a partner of ours, and yeah, definitely do save a lot of time. Like with signing leases when I was at property management, having to book these appointments with them, and only one person out of two tenants can make it at a certain time. It was just absolutely annoying. So to Flick It Over, props to them. Amazing stuff. Yeah. So in terms of where you'd like to see time saved now, which side of like real estate is taxing the most time, and where would you like to see time saved?
Oh, easily PM. I think still for me, the biggest bugbear is the platform that we use as our main property management software does not remove emails from the inbox. It's still an inbox, and then some go into the main software platform. So that is hugely inefficient the way that that's working at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. And so with AI, where would you like to see AI take us for property management in the future?
Oh, I think leveling up the communication and the automation around like routine inspections, providing, better, a faster and a better communication around routine inspections for owners.
Yeah.
And just automation, if possible, around, things in our property management software. So to take the mental load off property managers.
Yeah.
Now,
I was going to say, there's been a number of times you've mentioned that mental load for property managers. Obviously, that seems to be one of the biggest pain points that you foresee. Are there any other pain points that you see for property managers in your business? And is there anything you're doing to address them as a company just to make life easier for them?
I think we've definitely looked at what we can do to help them. So we now have an inspections team so that we limit the time that they're out of the office. We employ, and I have to come up with a better name for her than this role suggests, but a floater, a permanent floater. So someone that will cover annual leave, sick leave, so that people don't have that stress of I'm off for the day, I'm sick at home. No one's going to cover my emails. I'm going to come back to 300 emails. I think they're two of the biggest things that we've done. And then obviously looking at the way that we can use tech to help alleviate that. I think it's just about the connectivity of the tech that we use to make sure that we're, doing the best job that we can do.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Now, just some questions for people who are, aspiring to be a property or be in real estate, in sales or property management. Like, I know you've been very busy, with your workload and, you've done so many things for your agency, but how do you balance your professional life with, say, personal growth and your own well-being? Like, how do you manage your week?
I wake up very early. So I wake up at 4:15 and I go to the gym before my kids wake up.
Wait, 4:15?
Yeah.
So what time do you go to bed?
Like 9:30, 10. I'm not a late. Otherwise, I will be exhausted and cranky. But yeah, for me, the morning is my sense of calm, and it gives me time in my day just for myself, and then I can still be back for my kids by 6. So that for me is really important and sets me up for the day. And then I think it's just around trying to carve out when it's compartmentalizing. When you've got family time, it's family time, and when you're in the office, you're in the office. But yeah, certainly for me, starting my day 4:15.
But how early do you get into office? Do you get in at 9 or do you get in way earlier?
No, I get in at 9 because I'll do some emails from home. I don't live super close to the office, so I'll do some work from home. And again, that's really useful to start the day, getting a head start, just getting through some emails and setting myself up for the day so that when I'm in the office, I hit the ground running.
So 4:15, do you hit snooze at least 3 times, or do you just get up straight at 4:15?
My alarm doesn't even go off. I wake up before my alarm.
Well,
So
No,
you-
I'm a morning person, so that.
Superhuman.
as you're
Look,
waking up, I'm going to bed.
Do I wish that I could, push it to 5:15? Yes, but that timing doesn't work. So such is life.
That's just life. You're 100% right.
And so throughout your career, was there any times that, like, say you felt like you hit, say, rock bottom, there was a setback, and was there anything that you did or told yourself to basically overcome it or push yourself and motivate you to reach further?
Oh, I don't think I've ever hit rock bottom per se.
Yeah.
I've definitely come up against some challenges. I think
Yeah.
certainly sort of take me back 10 years ago and working in this office and the challenges that were presented at the time. Certainly, there was some legacy staff here and some, we had to almost break apart the business and build it back up again. And so certainly in that time, there's been challenges because it's, you're dealing with people and you're dealing with, a lot of change in the office, change management. So with all of that, there comes challenges. And I think surrounding yourself with people that have that positive mindset. And, I work with someone very closely in my business that, we have very aligned values and we can, have a laugh, because if we don't laugh, we'll cry moments. I think as long as you've got sort of people that allow you to do that, then, you'll succeed. And I think also, again, being able to leave the business at the business and go home and, be normal and see your family and, not rock in a corner when you get home. I think that's probably a positive win for the day.
Yeah. And moving forward, like the next 5-10 years, where would you like to see your agency go from here?
I think we've been on a real journey of evolution. And I think, as I said before, we've transitioned from a really old school agency. We were part of a First National franchise for a very long time. We stepped away from that 10 years ago and we've got a standalone brand. I'm super proud of, how all of our branding and advertising and marketing looks. I think we've got a great team and I think we're at a really good base level to sort of level up now. So I think, with everything, when you change things, you expect growth to happen immediately. And I think that we have definitely grown and we've gotten better. And it is always my intent to continue to evolve and keep growing. But I think we're ready for that next growth phase now. I think we've cleaned everything up, back of house. I think that the businesses that grow too quickly is when it sort of all implodes a little bit down the track because you haven't necessarily set things up with intent or with rigor. It's just, like, it's amazing when that quick growth happens, but it's unsustainable if you haven't got the foundations there. And I think we've really worked on the foundations and the rigor and the process. So it's a really exciting phase now for us to grow from here.
Yeah,
fair enough. Awesome. And you go, well, we've done this evolution. You've been in this industry 10 years ago. You've gone through, and obviously you've been in it longer because you've had it in your family since you were young. And the interesting comments about the dad in the suit at the sports carnival. I'm the dad in the Proptech Labs t-shirt at the sports carnival, mate, on the phone pretending I'm not on the phone. So you've gone to this evolution. You've had 10 years. What do you think property management and or sales and or real estate will look like over the next 5 or 10 years if you were to put your your wizard's hat on for the future? I mean, it's I always love to ask this because I love to watch people's faces.
I ask myself this question all the time.
Yeah.
And like, I'm a little bit scared of the answer and I don't necessarily, and I try and ask other people as well in similar positions and say, and I don't know if I think of it differently because I'm not an agent and I'm not a property manager and I sort of exist in this weird in-between space of operations. But I don't know the answer, but I feel like I'm a little bit scared. It's a bit unknown and it is changing so quickly. So I think definitely businesses that evolve with the changes that come will be the ones that succeed, and certainly ones that are behind the times will get swallowed up pretty quickly. So I don't ultimately know what it looks like, but I think it'll be quite different from where we are right now.
Yeah, and if you could give some advice to someone who's listening to this podcast, who's thinking about joining sales or property management, or even starting their own business. Do you have any sage words from someone who's a veteran of the industry of 10 years or longer in the family that you could impart on them about what this role is and what this industry is about?
Yeah, I think I always say, don't be scared of going on a journey in real estate. I always encourage, some of our best performers in our office now are the ones that have gone on a journey from, leasing to new business to property management through to sales, because they understand the full life cycle of real estate. And I think real estate's not a quick game. It's about the long-term play. And I think people that think it's about the quick dollar are not going to last, and it won't be fulfilling for them anyway. I think you've got to understand, learn to listen, learn to connect with people, because that's what ultimately what real estate is about. It's about connection, either, through the people that you meet or the opportunities that present themselves. But certainly it's about understanding all aspects of real estate in order for you to really leverage your experience and become the best that you can be in whatever space you operate in.
Yeah, I think that's a really wise words.
Yeah. And here's my favorite question. It's a bit of reflection needed for this. So if you could go back in time and visit 12-year-old Natasha, what would you tell her to prepare her for this road that you've taken?
I think I'd say live in the moment, enjoy the journey. I think sometimes we're all too caught up in where we're going to end up, and I think the fun parts of the journey. So definitely enjoy the moments, enjoy the small wins. And I even say it now, I think this business has evolved so much, and sometimes we're so eager to be going on to the sort of the next growth phase that we don't ever sort of stop and say, wow, we've done a great job. And I think that's true of life. I just think we're too quick to be thinking, I want to get here. My kids say to me, I want to finish school. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, school is the best days of your life. Like enjoy that time.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, I think it's just about enjoying the moments along the way. And then every opportunity is a learning, the good and the bad. You've learned something, you'll grow from it. And I think 100%. Just being self-aware is also something that I try and, teach people. Like you have to understand that in order to grow, you have to be self-aware. And sometimes that means listening to feedback that isn't, how you think it should be, because it's not about how you think you are. It's about, someone's feedback about you. But if you can learn and grow from that, then you'll do better. So I think, those two pieces of advice are probably the ones that I'd push.
I like it.
I was going to say, will the family business continue with your kids? Are they going to come and take over?
I couldn't possibly answer that, because I was a firm no when I was younger. So,
fair enough.
My daughter talks about it, but we'll see. I think they sometimes hear me on the phone and they're like, oh, I don't know if we can work with scary mummy, though. And I'm just like,
that's the way it's got to be sometimes.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Natasha, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. And Raf, always a pleasure having you here too.
Thanks, Kunal. Thanks, Natasha. It's a great chatting. Thank you so much for your insights. It's always great to dig into the mind of people that are doing the hard yards in business. And we thank you very much for spending a bit of time with Kunal and I and the listeners today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been great.